Chapter 1. James Tiberius Kirk was born in Iowa. It was a small community and he lived a normal life for a young man who had been born and raised in the early part of the 23rd century. He lived there with his mother and father and his brother George. Jim was a straight-A student, and things had always come easy to him. His dashing looks and his quick smile won over many a woman. But, he had something else in mind. He wanted to travel through the stars. He wanted to become a Starfleet officer. He was with his parents at the age of 13 when he had witnessed the massacre of over 4,000 people because of an impending famine on Tarsus IV by Kodos the executioner. The man was the leader of the outpost and the food was getting dangerously low. He had been told that the supply ships would not be arriving for months. He ordered the execution of all the innocent people so that the stronger people could survive. He honestly thought that he was doing the right thing, but the supply ships did arrive on time and Kudos managed to escape. This horrific tragedy profoundly affected Kirk and was instrumental in his decision to join Starfleet. His father and mother were very proud of their son and supported his wish. It was with the help of a family friend Mallory had used her influence to win him a spot at the prestigious Starfleet Academy. He would join just before he turned 18. On the planet Vulcan, a young man named Spock was being raised with the strictest of Vulcan guidelines. The planet was dedicated to non-emotion and logic. He was half human as his mother Amanda was a school teacher who had married his father, a Vulcan ambassador. He was an only child and had been the victim of ridicule almost since birth. On Vulcan, Spock was known as the human boy, but on Earth he was known as the Vulcan child. He found himself in a universe where he was neither and accepted nowhere. But, through all that, he had graduated at the top of his class and had been offered a spot at the Vulcan Science Academy. He had turned down the position and gone on to join Starfleet. The decision to join Starfleet had left Spock with no home at all. His father argued with his son for weeks, trying to convince him that this is where he belonged. Kirk and his father had both been members of the Vulcan Science Academy, a place of peace. Starfleet was known to have had conflicts with other races, something that Vulcans opposed vigilantly. Spock had gone to the Starfleet Academy without either of his parents supporting him. At the age of 18, Spock found himself in a strange world. He worked hard and did very well at the academy. He finished first in his class and was given the prestigious job of working with the cadets and teaching them different things that would be used as their career blossomed. It was there that he met Christopher Pike. Captain Pike took Spock under his arm and taught him many things that only a Starfleet officer could. He saw good in Spock and the capability of leadership in the young man. He knew that Spock had been raised Vulcan but could see his human side as well. That side was well hidden but not gone, and the combination would Spock a good officer. When Captain Pike made the decision to once more captain a starship, he asked and got the right to take Spock with him as his science officer. Spock was extremely intelligent and his knowledge of the universe and the places that he and the crew of the Enterprise were going to be going were immense. The Enterprise went on to do a 5-year mission, where Spock and Captain Pike went on to become the best of friends, a friendship that would last a lifetime for the both of them. This would continue on and eventually become an 11-year mission where Spock grew and learned. He would stay with the captain until Kirk replaced him. Jim Kirk had finally finished the Starfleet Academy and was now assigned to the USS Farragut. He worked hard as an ensign. Under Captain Garovic he learned many things. The captain was one of the best men he had ever met, and when he was killed Kirk never fully recovered from the shock. He had been killed by a cloud and Kirk promised himself that Garovic's life would be avenged. It was during that time that both Spock and Kirk ended up back at the main Starfleet headquarters. Captain Pike had always been impressed with the man that had been assigned to the USS Farragut, James Kirk. He was young, bright and dedicated, much like his science officer Spock. One night Spock was in one of the computer labs when Captain Pike walked by the room with his friend James Kirk. "I would like you to meet my science officer Spock." Captain Pike introduced Kirk to him. Spock stood up and shook the hands of the man who would become his best friend. They exchanged words and Captain Pike got a page, leaving the two men alone in the room. Something clicked between the two men, and although there was no friendship as of yet, the two men went right to work together. Spock was working on a problem that had occurred on one of the planets in the outer reaches of their space. The food was not growing the way it should, and the local inhabitants were not cooperating with Starfleet. The two of them worked on the problem and came up with a way for the locals to make more food for profit, and they used their power as Starfleet officers to suggest and convince others at Starfleet that ships were going to be needed at that location more often. The two officers together had stopped a conflict from a computer terminal located many thousands of miles away. When they were done, Kirk suggested that they go to local pub and celebrate, but that was not the type of man that Spock was. Once he had completed one mission, he would go back to his room and rest. He was a logical man dedicated to the good of the universe and not interested in socializing. Kirk thought about the young man who had no interest in women or socializing and did not understand him. However, he was a good officer and a very capable one. As they parted ways, they shook hands, and it occurred to the both of them that they would serve together one day. In just a few moments, Jim Kirk thought that he had found a friend and possible companion. Spock did not like to think about friendships, but he thought that the man James Kirk that he had just spent a short time with was the type of man he would want to call friend.